All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started. I saw a little hand. If you guys, can you guys chat too? Can you just say hi in the chat if you can? This is our first time using Zoom webinar, so I want to test this out. Oh, we got Q&A. Perfect. Thank you guys. Okay, it's disabled. That's good to know. Well, we'll do Q&A if you guys have any questions. So we'll figure out the chat aspect next time then. Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining me today. I am really excited to host this webinar which is all about writing for impact. If you have any questions throughout this, please feel free to use the Q&A now that it's open, but we have a lot of information to cover today, so I want to move pretty quickly. But again, I also want to make sure that you all are getting any questions answered. So if you can let me know too in the Q&A, since the chat is disabled, where you're from, I would love to know where you all are tuning in from. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and open up my screen share here. And if you all can let me know if you can see this, I will get going since we are 2 minutes in and I want to maximize our time here today. All right, so today's workshop is, of course, writing for impact. This is something that's really important for me and I've noticed has made a huge difference in my writing career. And so it's something that I hit heavily on with my clients because it is so important. Oh, hi, hi, Amy. Yes, Jonas Davis, he is family, so that's incredible. It's always a small world. So why writing for impact is so important? It's because many aspiring authors who I work with in the very beginning of their writing career tend to start their book without having a very specific direction to go in. A lot of people will tend to start writing just because they feel like it's time to write, but they don't really have that direction that they're heading into or an end goal in mind. A lot of aspiring authors don't finish what they start, or they don't start at all, despite having an idea that they're truly passionate about. And I'm a firm believer that if there's something that has landed on you, something that you know is an important message to get into the world, that message, that idea picked you for a reason. Too many aspiring authors sacrifice authenticity for sameness, meaning that they are seeing what's popular out there and they're trying to write in a way that mimics what's popular, or maybe they had a book that they read that really impacted them. And so they're trying to write like that author, and they're figuring out it's clunky. It's not going real smoothly because they're trying to write like someone else. They don't share enough connection points with their ideal reader, which a lot of times is really writing more from that place of vulnerability. And then they shove too many messages into one book. So what I mean by this is that instead of having a very clear theme or a clear outcome, which we'll discuss here in a bit, they're trying to put everything that they've ever wanted to write about into one book. And then they also exclude the power of storytelling, which we'll talk about today. So the workshop was created to give you a map for your book. If you have yet to start, or maybe you have been trying to start for a few years, this workshop is going to give you more direction on how to move forward with your book. It'll give you a new reason to start and finish your book. You'll embrace weaving in your authentic self with sharing of your story or lots of different stories throughout your life, and it'll help you connect with your ideal reader. You also simplify and specify your core message, which is key to a book that really makes an impact on your audience. And you'll also infuse the stories of your life into the book that you want to write. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Lauren Eckhardt. I'm the CEO and founder of Burning Soul Collective. I'm also an award-winning best-selling author and ghostwriter. But really, my point of starting Burning Soul Collective, the purpose behind everything I do, is to help purpose-driven people really capture their life story, to be able to document that in a book, because I really believe that books last longer than anything else when it comes to that impact that you want to make, because they get passed down from hand to hand. They live on for years, for decades, for centuries. I feel like it's so important when you're able to capture your mission, your purpose, your message in a book-led movement that can truly change lives even after your time here in this world. So I founded Burning Soul Collective in 2020 after 12 years in the human resources field. And my goal is to really ensure that people feel accepted as their most authentic self. And I think a lot of that comes from embracing our life journeys and what brought us to where we are today. So Burning Soul Collective is truly fueled by passionate creatives and authors who want to change the world with their message and their talents. And we focus really on book writing, but then also getting your book out into the world in a very empowerment method way. We really believe in keeping that ownership as much as possible to your story, to your idea, to the movement that you want to create. And so that is our core focus with what we do at Burning Soul Collective. So I want to ask, what does impact mean to you? And if you received the email earlier, before it was probably sent out about an hour before the workshop started, you should have gotten a link for some worksheets that you can document your notes on, or you can do this later as well, or just open up a notebook and take some notes. But what does impact mean to you? When you hear that word, what do you think about? And what do you think about in terms of the impact that you're making in this world? Here are some of my thoughts related to impact. Embracing that this life is more than just about us, stepping outside of ourselves in hopes to help others. It's truly evidence of our most authentic self and our journey here. It's that legacy aspect. It's generational change. I have two kids. They're 4 and 6. You saw them in the previous picture there, 4 and 6. And I'm constantly thinking about, what am I doing? What are the actions that I'm taking today that leaves this world a better place for them in the future? And then really that legacy we leave behind. It's funny because I used to always think of legacy as something that you worry about when you get to a certain point in life, but really it's everything you do from the time that you're born. And it's that lasting imprint on this world. And I've realized, especially over the past 5 years, it's something that drives me for every action, every decision that I make throughout my days, is how can I maximize the impact that I want to make here? And a big part of that was really when my kids were born. It shifted my perspective on what I wanted to do in this world. And that is what I call the why that drives you. I wanted to be an author since I was 6 years old. That was my dream. That's what I told everyone that I wanted to do. And I remember, like, the years would pass and I would always set new goals, right? Like, this is the year that I publish a book, or this is the year that I even finish a book. And I especially remember at each decade, like, by the time I'm 20, I'm going to be a published author. By the time I'm 30, this is happening, right? Like, this is the year that it officially takes place. And something would come up, life would happen, and next thing I know, the years are passing, right? And I still haven't finished a book that I want to publish. I haven't done anything that I thought I would do in regard to being an author. That shifted when I had my kids. I talk about this period in my life that it was, my youngest was 9 months old. My oldest at the time was 2.5. And there's this triple breakdown moment, right? This moment, and if you're a mom, I'm sure you can relate to this. It's that moment when you're standing there, your kids are crying, they're chaotic, you feel chaotic, you're crying. It just feels like everything is crashing down around you because you just lost control over everything. And I remember looking at them in that moment, and I thought, wow, they are a reflection of how I'm feeling inside, because I knew despite what I was doing every day as a mom and as working, it wasn't enough on the fulfillment side. I wasn't feeling fulfilled because I had this dream since I was 6 years old that I wanted to be an author, and it would sit on me, and it was almost like this rock that would crush me, where I couldn't breathe because it was there and it was getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and I still wasn't doing anything about it. Can anyone relate to that? I knew pretty much every day that I needed to write, and I was continually prioritizing other things over it. So it sounds like having this dream since I was 6 years old should be enough to drive me forward, right? Like a dream should be enough. And it wasn't. It was after that triple breakdown moment with looking at my kids when I realized I needed to live by example for them, right? I can't just tell them to chase their dreams someday. I can't just tell them that they have all the talent and skill that they need to do what is on their heart to do. I had to live it. And so it was 10 months after that moment where I just went into overdrive, and I completed any book that was sitting there unfinished and wrote 3 others, all in that short period of time. Because I was on a mission, I had a brand new why. And that why is what finally drove me to complete my book. So it was a big learning lesson for me. Like, sometimes the whys seem like enough, but if they're not actually pursuing or encouraging you, motivating you to complete those dreams on your heart, those goals, you probably need a new why. Your why is not strong enough. So dig in deep, because we're all motivated by different things. And there usually needs to be something at stake related to that urgency aspect, some sort of link to that internal motivation for you as the hero of your own journey, right? That's like every book that's created, every fiction book, the stories that are told. There's something at stake related to urgency and the hero's internal motivation that's driving the story forward, that's giving them everything that they need to achieve their goals, to reach their dreams. So if your why hasn't done it enough yet, dig deeper for a new why. Ask yourself, why do you want to write this book? What will drive you to complete this book? Because those might be two different things. What's at stake if you don't write this book? And what's the urgency behind writing it now? I always say it's kind of morbid, but the way my mind works, but I'm learning it's not so much more morbid as it is realistic, motivational. I'm constantly thinking that tomorrow is not a guarantee, that the next hour is not a guarantee. And that is part of what drives me. What are the decisions I'm making right now? What am I prioritizing right now? And how is that making a difference for who I want to be tomorrow, or what I'm leaving behind? That legacy aspect again. So if you don't feel like your why is strong enough, spend some time digging in deep, finding a new why that will help you complete this book. So I want to talk about the theme of the book you're writing, because a lot of this too will be very related to your ultimate why. And the best thing you can do is start with the end in sight. As I mentioned before, a lot of people, new writers especially, will start out just kind of writing and they don't have that specific direction. But it's like when you set out on a road trip, right? As fun as it might seem sometimes, as whimsical as it may be to just drive around and see the sights, there still has to be some sort of goal, some sort of place that you're going to, that you're aiming for, even if it's just a milestone, just part of the journey, maybe, and not always the total end journey, but you have to have a specific point in mind. And with a story, you have to know where the book is going. You have to start with the end in sight. And ultimately, the purpose of the entire book, especially in the nonfiction realm, is what is that message, promise, outcome of the book that you want to write? What do you want the reader to walk away with in the end? What will they always think about when they think of your book? I have a couple of examples here, just from some of our clients and other books. So examples of that message, promise, outcome. You have the power to change your life. Like, the power is within your control to change your life. 8 tools to implement whole self-healing. So that's more of a framework for a self-help book. Reframing your pain can lead to growth. Good airway health is key to a happy, healthy life. So those are just some of the ideas, or some of the examples that you can think about when it comes to thinking about your own message, promise, outcome of the book you want to write. Now, some of the other questions to consider: what's the message that you want to leave behind in the world? What truly reflects you? And we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the next slide. If you only had the chance to leave one message to someone who is just now getting their start in the world, what would you tell them to help them set out on a happy, fulfilling life? How has your life journey revealed the truth of the importance of that message in your life? More than likely, we have had some sort of deep experience or revelation or connection, emotional connection to that message, that outcome, that promise that we want to share. What is important to us? And this is one that can be tricky sometimes when I'm working one-on-one with clients, because many times we're still trying to break through how other people see us or what other people think we should stand for, instead of what we truly stand for, what gets us excited, what we feel like is that final message that we want to share, the big message that we want to share, what we want to represent. And sometimes the truth of that is scary. Sometimes there are certain messages, promises, outcomes that give us little butterflies in our stomach. And suddenly it's like this wave of imposter syndrome. Can I write about this? I shouldn't write about this. I don't have the authority to write about this. If you have lived through anything, you have the authority to write about it. If you have personal experience with anything, I will tell you that personal experience can go so much further than someone who has spent years just researching but never actually living it themselves. The goal with this is to simplify and be as specific as possible with that ultimate theme, promise, or outcome of your book. If you find your message or promise has a lot of ands to it, like the power to change your life and to empower other people and to become the best version of yourself, that's too much. You're trying to cram way too many ideas into one book. You need to have a very, very simplified main message, main theme. Now, there's going to be sub-themes, right, that you can relate to that main one, but you need to have a very, very clear, specific outcome that you want the reader to be able to experience or to achieve or to walk away knowing at the end of this book. And then the other goal is to write to one person. This is one of the biggest components that I'm an advocate for. A lot of people will say, just come up with a target person, right? Like, just create them out of thin air. Nothing else will drive you with writing as much as knowing that your book is going to one very specific person. And that person you have to have an emotional tie to them. Okay. So whether it's, your niece and you know that you really want to send this powerful message to your niece someday, or maybe it was you when you were 10 years old, you want to write to that person. Think of someone that you have an emotional tie to, even if it was a powerful story that you heard about, someone's cousin, and maybe you don't know them, but that story really, really impacted you. And you just kept thinking, gosh, if only they could hear my story and what I experienced, I know that could help them. There just has to be some sort of emotional link tied in with it. And it's going to give you so much more clarity in the direction of your book, because then it's almost like writing a letter to that person with everything that you want to tell them or everything that you want to share with them. So get very clear on, if this book could just reach one person, who is that one person that you already have an emotional tie to? So I'm a big believer in that our entire life journeys are chipping away at what I refer to as our soul's message. And really, it's related to our purpose here in this world. We have all of these experiences with people or with events, and it's making us feel a certain way. It's challenging us to become a certain person. It's showcasing our strengths. It's really just a part of our evolution as a whole. But each time those events or interactions occur in our life, they're chipping away at what I call that soul's message. It's identifying to us what is lighting us up, what is fueling us, what are we passionate about in this world, what is that impact that we want to make. And many times we don't see it, right? We don't see it until it's hindsight, and then we're able to make those connections. But they're happening every single day. The difference is, usually it's easier to be aware of those situations and how they're linked to your purpose or what lights you up, again, looking at hindsight. But if you're aware, if you stay aware, if you stay open to what is my purpose, how is that purpose being revealed to me day in and day out? What lights me up? What makes me feel like I need to make a change in this world? You'll start to see how those events play out. You'll start to see the signs that lead you into that direction. And for many of us, it's really tied into that fulfillment. When we make a difference in this area, when we speak about this area, we feel fulfilled. We feel like something within us shifted and that we were able to help someone else as well. So for me, and it might not be like this for everyone, but sometimes it helps to think of it as, what is my soul's message? What is my soul's purpose? What is my purpose here in this world? And if you're struggling with maybe just so many ideas and you don't know which one to start with that one. Start with the one that you really feel like lights you up the most, because that excitement to write it, being able to link in all of those experiences and interactions from your past to support the message, it's going to make it easier to write because you're going to be the most excited about that one. And I always say, if this happens to be the only book that you ever write, you really want it to be a reflection of who you truly are, down to the core of your existence. So let it be that one. But more than likely you will write other books. The first one is always hard, but once you get started, it becomes an addiction, it becomes like a high. It truly does. So we're going to talk a little bit about the power of storytelling, bringing in those stories from your life to connect with your reader. We'll talk about the different types of books you can write in the nonfiction realm and how you weave the stories of your life into those in a bit. But it's interesting to me. I'm going to get a sip of water. Every time I meet someone new and I tell them what I do, like, I'm a book coach. I help people capture their life stories into powerful books that make a difference for the world. The number one thing I hear, and it's almost immediate, it's like a reaction: my life isn't important enough to talk about in a book. Y'all, that breaks my heart every time I hear that, because I feel like it's discrediting these incredible life journeys that we've all been on. A lot of times when it comes to nonfiction books, specifically related to memoirs, inspirational, or self-help, people tend to default to this idea, this myth, that you have to have this big T trauma in your life to be able to write about it. And that's not the case. There are the big T traumas and then the little T traumas. And no matter what, we all have experience with them, even if it's been nothing but little T traumas throughout our life. It's a part of the life and evolution of what we go through. And all of those are going to look different for each one of us. But our entire life journeys, it's based on that evolution and transformation of who we are, because we're not the same person as we were, when we were babies or little kids, right? Every single day, every choice that we make is leading us into a different version of who we are or who we could be. And so storytelling is really identifying the pieces of the human experience that are especially relatable to that target group, to that one person, for example, that you're writing to relate that message that you want to transfer to them. So it's important to remember that even though we all have different experiences in our life, it's the emotions that we connect with each other on, right? We can relate to each other based off of those emotions that we felt, even if the situations that have caused them are different. So storytelling is really connecting those emotions with another person, helping them see their own life reflected in that story that you're telling. Because we're smart, right? We can piece things together. We can really see ourselves in other people's stories in that way. So storytelling doesn't have to only be about your life, but also about the interactions with other people. So that's something else to remember. Maybe you're not just telling a story about your life, but it's also about, you can also share stories about interactions with other people, important people in your life. So this is one of my favorite exercises that I like to do with my clients. And it's really identifying the stories throughout our life journey that you can weave into the books that you want to share. And this is kind of the overall chart. It's a little blurry, and I'm sorry about that, but this is what I say is how we are seen or how we are in this world. I have an obsession with trees. I think trees are such a beautiful reflection of who we are as people, and we can really learn a lot from nature as a whole, but especially trees. And what I love about like the roots of trees specifically is that most of them are hidden underground, and they can be ugly, but they can also be beautiful. And the ugliness and the beauty, they're all weaved in together, right? And all of those roots, every single one of them contributes to the strength of the tree as a whole. And that's really like our life journeys, the stories of our life journey so far. They all contribute to who we are, who we're standing to be, who we are on the outside. And so our growth as people comes from our life journeys. And many times we can think about the things that impacted us when they come up in like random other situations in our life. But very rarely do we actually chart all of these significant events in our life and how they actually made a difference in who we are today. So what I always recommend doing is just starting with a blank sheet of paper and having like a horizontal line. And then draw these vertical lines like you can see here that cross over the horizontal line. On the top part of the horizontal line where the vertical lines are, you're going to chart significant events that happen in your life, the ones that you're recalling that are associated with the theme that you've already identified, that message, that outcome, that promise of the book you want to write. What are the significant events that happen in your life? Oh, you said the connection is bad, not hearing you. Can everyone not hear me? Okay, thank you, Amy. Thank you for keeping me posted on it. So you want to be able, when you think of those significant events related to that theme, that promise, that outcome that you have already identified, you want to think of them as they don't have to be life-shattering events, even though they are significant. Significant events that impact us can truly come down to even a look that somebody gives you. It doesn't have to be this, something like a car crash or a car accident. It doesn't have to be that big. Sometimes a look that we receive is enough to throw us off or to make us suddenly pivot into a different direction because we didn't feel accepted in this one area, or our idea suddenly didn't seem like a good idea. The one that we were so gung-ho in pursuing got shut down by one look. It might have been a comment from somebody that really shifted who you were or the decision that you made in that moment. And every decision, of course, right, leads us down different paths in our lives. So thinking again about your theme, about the message, about the outcome, what are those very significant events that happen in your life that contributed to you being so passionate about that theme, promise, outcome, that supports the messages that you want to deliver in your theme, message, outcome of your book? And then on the bottom end, it's important to state the impact it had on you, the emotion you felt as a result of that event. And remember, those events too aren't always just what happens to us, but sometimes the actions that we took as well that led to those events. And then what's the impact, the emotion of your action or of what happened to you as a result? And then what's interesting to document, especially if you can get to a point, at first it might be really messy because you're just thinking about all of these random stories that might be this like jump across your lifeline. But when you can then go back and do it more in a sequential order of when these events happen, even if there's like 10-year gaps, right, between one to the next, it's important to document the transformation or the character development that happened as a result. Because there is something that's taking part internally every time as a result of those significant events. And they can be positive or they can be negative. It's not always just an upward slope, right? It's truly a roller coaster sometimes in our development. So when you're able to see those for what they are, as far as helping us grow or become better people, or part of our evolution or a revelation of things we need to fix about ourselves or things we need to change in our life, or really that, again, the desire to make an impact, to make a change in this world. When you have those documented like that, it's extremely powerful because you start recognizing how important your life actually is when it comes to sharing it with other people. And what's really great about even taking the time to do a simple exercise like this is that when those situations come up where you feel like it is an opportunity to connect with someone else because you have experienced maybe similar stories or similar emotions from, differing events, but ones where you can help them feel like they are seen and heard for who they are, you're able to communicate them better from a simple exercise like this because you're recalling them, you're bringing them up, you have them in the forefront of your mind, and hopefully to be able to use them for the book that you're writing as well. Okay. So when it comes to storytelling techniques, really it's to find out, like, after you have your list of events, significant events that you've recalled from your life that could be related to your theme or promise, it's really choosing the most relatable stories from there to the message you're sharing. Does it support your theme? Does it move your story forward? And then what does your ideal reader need to have cemented in their mind? What will help them recall the point that you want to make through this use of storytelling? Because the thing is, you could drop so many different facts to a reader or research to that reader facts, but it's going to be more of the story that supports those facts, that supports those points that really stand out to them the most. So the goal when you're storytelling, you want to always stay focused on the ultimate purpose. They don't have to be long. They can just be little clips of different stories that you're sharing. And just remember, every story has a beginning, middle, and an end. Simple. Keep it simple. When you're telling a story, there's a beginning, how it started, there's a middle, something that happened, and then there's an ending, right? A conclusion to that story that you're telling. Otherwise, it's not a story then. And then details help bring the story to life, especially being able to tap into all 5 senses and make it feel real. But you don't want to go overboard either, because they aren't the essential part that connects with the reader. It's different, of course, when you're writing a fiction book or even when you're writing a full memoir, because it is retelling or bringing the reader into your world, either the world you're creating or the one that you lived. So those details definitely help in that regard. But when you're just sharing little snippets of stories, like maybe if you're writing an inspirational book or a self-help book, it's important to keep it very concise with the beginning, middle, and end, and enough details to bring it to life. But remember, you don't want them to flood or overtake the essential part that connects with the reader. So let's talk about the different types of nonfiction book, because this is something that I've realized a lot of beginner writers tend to get a little mixed up in. An autobiography is truly the sequential telling of your life story, right? Usually from the time you were born to wherever you are today. And it's recalling the significant events that led you through that time. A memoir is going to be more focused on a very particular point in your life, but it's all going to be associated around a theme, a very important theme that you want to share, or that message that you want to share. And then how do those specific stories support that theme or that message? So it's not going to be your entire life journey. It's just going to be those very important stories that support the theme and message you want to share. An inspirational story is one that is very similar to the memoir, because you are indeed sharing bits of your life, but you are doing it in such a way that it is more directed to the reader. Like you are inspiring them, encouraging them, motivating them while you're sharing your own stories. Whereas a memoir, a lot of times, will sound like you're just talking to a friend, telling them about your life, or it reads a lot like a fiction book for many, many memoirs. They read like a fiction book, but they're really a recount of someone's life. Again, where inspirational is, okay, let me share this story with you, and this is how you can apply it to your own life. Self-help is more direct in the sense of there's usually a framework that somebody has created to inspire or help someone else. So like earlier, I give the example of the, 8 steps to whole health healing, or, sometimes there will be 4 main sections, and each one is broken down into some way to help somebody. So maybe, for example, if it's about writing, the first one would be about reflection and the different ways you can reflect on your life story. And then the second one would be about writing or about creating. How do you then take those life stories and write about them? So it's more of a framework that you've created in some way or another, or even that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these are the steps to get from point A to point B and to solve the main problem that you have in your life. So it's more action guided in that way. And then thought leadership is more, really challenging a new way of thinking, a new perspective on a particular topic. One of the earlier examples I gave was about how airway health is, the number one way to ensure a happy, healthy life. That is, a thought leadership stance. Like that is a brand new way, or a new way of thinking, a new perspective. And then it's backed by those facts, the research, the stories that continually support that. So in each one of these, you're really weaving in those different life stories, but it's the way in which you do it. How do you go about weaving them in? The autobiography, very, very simple, right? From beginning to where you are currently in your life, it's sharing those stories. Memoir, it's sharing those stories that are all related to your theme. Maybe they are all together, but maybe it's just different snippets of your life that support the message that you're wanting to deliver. Inspirational, you're weaving in stories more than likely of your life, but maybe from the life examples of clients, of friends, of people you've connected with as well, to support the points of the inspiration that you want to deliver. And then self-help, you're again using your stories more as examples, as proof of your framework and how effective it is. And then thought leadership, it's to really drive more of that overall thinking perspective into a story format to make that connection with people. So when you are finished with this workshop, you'll receive an email that has a fiction story outline and a nonfiction story outline included in that link. Here, let me switch over. Hopefully you guys can see this. So this is the link that you'll receive. So you have a fiction story and a nonfiction. The fiction is really good if you're writing a memoir. Even though a memoir is considered a nonfiction book, you use a lot of similar elements related to fiction. So you'll want to use this one for your memoir. And then if you're writing an inspirational thought leadership, self-help book, you'll want to use the nonfiction one. And this is pretty detailed, but this is really going to help you get a great start with writing your book if you haven't yet. So there will be a couple of brainstorming questions if you haven't landed on your topic or your message. And then it's really working through, how do you identify those main points? And then, sorry if this is going fast, but then also, how do you identify those stories that you want to include? And then what do you do afterwards? How do you implement those into a book format? So this is, for example, the nonfiction one is a 50-page workbook that you can access and work through. So be sure to keep an eye out for that email. Like I said, it'll be sent out pretty quickly after this workshop. And there will also include a recording of today's session too for you. And then, let me flip back over here. And then if you are looking for feedback or more of that community support in your writing, which is very important to have, we are also launching our Soulful Author Journey program that kicks off on September 5th. And it's a 12-week live group coaching program and course that strengthens and supports your author journey. So it'll take you through the entire realm of book writing, but then you're also going to have all of these additional modules related to publishing and promoting your book once your book is released out into the world. And the great part is that you get lifetime access to the course, so you can refer back to it whenever you want. But then you also have the 12-week live group coaching program. So it'll be weekly live group coaching on different topics, really diving in deeper, answering any questions you have. You'll have the community as well to get feedback for anything that you're working on. You know, once you get to the part of the blurb, if you want feedback on your blurb, you'll have the community to be able to ask questions about that. So really what we've done is taken everything that we've done on one-on-one work with our clients, and we've put it into the Soulful Author Journey program. So you all have it. So you have that access to it by signing up for it. So with attending the workshop, you can receive $200 off of the Soulful Author Journey program if you happen to sign up by Monday, August 1st. And then you also get our 30-day writing challenge program. This was just released last week, and I'm really, really excited about it. How often do you offer up the workshop? Is it this workshop, Amy, that you're asking about? Let me know which one you're talking about. Or are you talking about the discount? Let me know which one you mean with that. So the 30-day writing challenge, this will give you prompts on how to get started on your book to really have a foundational draft completed within 30 days. There are also some really great reflection questions throughout those 30 days to help you dive in deeper to make that impact that you really want to make. I'm really proud of this 30-day writing challenge. So we're excited to be able to give it as a bonus by signing up for the Soulful Author Journey. So we are doing Amy, to answer your question, we are doing the Writing for Impact workshop today. And so this discount is available for the Writing for Impact participants. And then we are doing a self-publishing one tomorrow. And then we are doing our promotion one on Thursday. So those are the workshops where this discount will be offered in. But yeah, so that officially kicks off on September 5th. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Let me restart this. I actually saw this morning and I thought this was so perfect. So I put it into this PowerPoint for you guys to listen. Hopefully you can hear this.
Dreams without goals are just dreams. Come on. And ultimately they fuel disappointment. Exactly. On the road to achieving your dreams, you must apply discipline, but more importantly, consistency, because without commitment, you'll never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish.
I love that so much because it's so important. If you haven't heard me speak before, you'll hear this quite frequently from me because I'm a big believer in it. You know, as writers or people who start out wanting to write, there are some myths, right, that you have to work through in the beginning. One, that writing a book is easy. Some people have the luck of writing a book really quickly and it seems really easy, but really when you're digging in deep, especially if you're sharing a lot of stories that are important to you, especially if you're looking at this book like, this is going to make a huge difference in this world, or this is going to represent my legacy, it takes a lot of extra digging. It takes a lot of extra work. There's a lot of emotions that get filtered out or filtered in. So it's not this super easy process. The other part pitfall that a lot of writers tend to fall in is that they feel like it should be this beautiful, inspirational, full of muse sort of action or event, and it's not. If you sit around waiting for inspiration or muse to hit, I mean, it's going to take a long time to write your book. And I speak from experience with that. Like, so my first book, I mean, it took me 10 years to write from the time I first started it to the time I finished it, because I kept waiting for that inspiration and it didn't happen. And then my second book took me 30 days because I learned the discipline aspect. So inspiration is fabulous, but you still have to have that discipline if you have a goal that you want to reach, a goal that you want to achieve, a dream that you want to achieve. You have to have the discipline. And then, like you said, it's the consistency on top of it that helps you achieve that. And I think that's so beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy. I mean the 12 weeks course, not the workshop. I very much like to work with you. I might still be doing too much groundwork to get into a course with you. Totally understand that, Amy. So this will be the only time this year that we offer the 12-week Soulful Author Journey program. As far as with the live group coaching, so this will be the only time this year, because that's going to bring us into, I think, December, the first week of December, if I remember right, because we're taking a week off for Thanksgiving. So this will be the only time this year that we run it. And then, I'm sure we will next year. But I'll tell you, Amy, there's some really, really strong foundational pieces in that course, including that bonus, that 30-day the 30-day writing challenge. You all getting that bonus if you sign up by Monday. You can work through that over the month of August before the program itself officially kicks off in September. And what that will do is really help give you that foundational piece to start with. We have an upgrade option for anyone interested, and they're limited to only 10 spots. I believe 2 of them are already taken. So I think there's only 8 left, but you can also upgrade to one-on-one sessions with me throughout that 12 weeks to get that extra attention, to get that extra set of eyes on your material. So that's an option too. But I really, really love specifically this 30-day writing challenge. And like I said, if you sign up by Monday, you can work through that 30-day writing challenge throughout August. And that's just going to give you a solid foundation to work with before the Soulful Author Journey officially kicks off on September 1st. Cool. So my final piece of advice, and if there are any more questions, please pop them in the Q&A. Reflect often on your why and choose a new one if it's not enough. I can't stress that enough. If you feel like you've had this dream on your heart and you have not completed it yet, find a new why. What's at stake? What's the urgency behind writing it? How are you going to feel on the other end of writing it? I can't talk about that part enough, because I told you it was like this heavy boulder sitting on my chest, like suffocating me, because I knew I needed to write in general, write books. And it wasn't until I did it that it was released. And I felt like I could breathe again. I felt like I was honoring my little girl dreams, and honoring the purpose I was supposed to live in this world. And the other part about this, writing a book was just the start of the rest of my dream. And I didn't realize it until I wrote that book. And I see that consistently with our clients. In the beginning, all they say is, I want to write this book. So I help them write it. We complete it. We put it out in the world. But then their dream expands from there, because it starts opening up doors. It starts opening up opportunities. You start seeing new ways to be able to bring those messages, those stories in to help other people. So for many of us, all we can see right now is writing this book. But I can guarantee there's so much more behind that door once you step through it. So practice incorporating your theme and the everyday impact of your life. That's more of that consistency spoken about on the previous slide. How else can you spread the message of what you've now identified as that core message of your book, and how you want to share that with the world? And then be sure to document in that workshop workbook the action steps that you will take over the next 30 days, and then make a commitment to yourself to achieve them. Because your impact is important. That desire on your heart is important to live out. And as always, my biggest bit of advice when you set out to write a story, write for you first and edit for them later. Don't start filtering. Don't start editing for other people right now. Truly focus on writing for you right now, and tapping into the most authentic, vulnerable pieces of who you are and bringing those out in the paper. You can edit anything later, but I can guarantee that is how this book will feel truly like you and truly like that impact you want to make. So you all will receive, like I said, a follow-up email after this. It'll have the links to the nonfiction and fiction outline. It'll also have a link for you for that $200 off for the Soulful Author Journey program. Like I said, you would, as long as you sign up by August 1st, you get the $200 off. And then you also get the 30-day writing challenge. to help kickstart your writing of this book. And keep us posted. However you connected with us, Facebook, Instagram, our website, keep us posted on your writing journeys, because we love to be able to cheer you all on. Thank you for joining us. If you have any other questions, I'll stay on for a few more minutes. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.